Now we come to Franklin Roosevelt. 1932, America had enough with Herbert Hoover and his failure to correct our economic problems. And Franklin Roosevelt becomes the new president in 1933. And he has what's called the New Deal. The New Deal is a slew of public works programs to try to help people. Things like Social Security, where workers can make a small payment from every paycheck to go into a fund for retirement. So when they're too old to work, they will get a retirement check. This is still going on today and hotly debated over, who wants to keep it going and who doesn't. Federal Works Program. This is where the government starts setting up jobs to get people who are out of work into a job to build things like bridges and roads, dams, all these things that all this infrastructure the country does need anyway. Why not start making a lot of jobs for this so that people can go back to work and we can get the economy moving in a positive direction? He also wanted to help farms, boost farmers' incomes. The government began price supports for some crops. Um, Price stabilization and so forth, giving low interest loans to sharecroppers and farm laborers so that they can buy their own farms and do their own work and benefit from their own labor. He was also big into labor unions, and even if you weren't in a labor union, that you should be afforded some protections, but from the government, so that you can negotiate better wages. Remember, yesterday we were talking about how companies were taking advantage of people because so many people were out of work that they could pay them less. Well, unions would fight things like that and try to get people a fair wage for their labor. And of course, environmental improvements, these new roads, bridges, tunnels, dams, and conservation programs, parks. Remember, his uncle, Teddy Roosevelt, was big into parks. And so they wanted to use these jobs to make America better, a nicer place to live. Everything is going to be cleaner, more connected, um, just a more connected country. So some of these programs that we need to remember, like the WPA, the Works Progress Administration, was the biggest of the New Deal agencies. This is the one that employs 8 million people in constructions, education, arts, all these things that we really do need as a country anyway, and start putting people back to work. The PWA, the Public Works Administration, funded more than 34,000 jobs, workers wired rural America with electricity, building tunnels, bridges, dams, highways, um, aircraft carriers, whatever we needed to build up our infrastructure and our defenses. Public Works Administration was in charge of that. Then you got the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, put 3 million young men, strong young men, on works projects related to conservation, development of natural resources in the United States. They plant trees, they build parks, they put railroads, they roads, um, and the FERA, FERA, Federal Emergency Relief Administration, made sure that 5 million struggling households were helped every month. Working with the poorest families that provide jobs, also offered health care and literacy programs so that people can lift themselves into a position. And a lot of these programs, some of them worked pretty well, some of them didn't have the desired effects, but Americans started seeing that the government was trying to do something. They were putting together programs that made sense to a lot of people, and optimism started to return to America after a very long decade. You notice that when we were talking about the unemployment, here's where Franklin Roosevelt takes over as president. Doesn't get much better, and then his programs get enacted, and it helps a little bit, and then it gets worse, and then it stabilizes, and then it gets better, and this is when he gets reelected, and then it gets a lot worse. So his programs really aren't working until we get closer and closer to World War II, where things really start to get better. But the perception that people had that the government was trying everything that they could to help people is all the Americans wanted, to know that their government was trying to look out for them. They may not be succeeding, but they're doing things that are helping us move, at least get the ship going in the right direction.